Hello students, we are going for the next heading called as STEM. So we know that STEM is always erect and it has the presence of branching. Some of the stems are cylindrical, branched and holds the leaves, flowers, fruits, all these are present on the stem. So we go in detail. Stem always takes its origin. Stem always takes its origin from the plumule. So stem always takes its origin from the plumule of embryo of germinating seed. So in the last class I used the word seed has two parts, radicle and plumule. Same way here the seed has radicle which gives rise to root system, the plumule gives rise to shoot system. And very important point regarding the stem. The stem has the presence of nodes and internodes. So here the stem has the presence of nodes and internodes. So this is very important because we know that stem has nodes and internodes, and some stems are below the ground, some stems are above the ground. So how to differentiate whether it is a stem or a root when it is below the soil? So it is the major character is nodes and internodes. If nodes are there, it is called a stem. The stem may be under the ground or it may be aerial. By seeing the nodes and internodes, we clarify it as a stem. Next, the stem base or the stem has the presence of leaf, branches, flowers, fruits, all this. So stem base, flowers, fruits, all this have been present on the stem. And it also has at the nodal region, stem also has at the nodal region called as axillary buds. So axillary buds may be present. So this axillary buds, sometimes it is present at the nodal region, sometimes it is present at the terminal. So there is a presence of terminal buds or axillary buds are being present in the stem. Stem always helps in support. Stem helps in support and transportation. Transportation is nothing but conduction. So we know that it helps in conduction of water and food. So here xylem, at the center of the stem there is a presence of vascular bundles. In this, xylem helps in conduction of water, whereas phloem helps in conduction of food. So it helps in support as well as it helps in transportation. So we go for the other characters. The stem is always called as positively. The stem is always positively phototrophism. So here stem always moves towards the light. So phototrophism is nothing but moving towards light. So they always try to move. So we always use a word positively. Positively phototrophism, moving towards light. And they are always called negatively geotrophism. Geotrophism or trophic. So the word geotrophism, the stem never moves towards the gravity. So we use a word negatively geotrophism. So this is one. Next, stem has some modifications. So it may be some thorns are there, hooks are there, or we call it as tendril modifications are there. All that we are discussing one after the other. Now, we will step into the next word called as modifications of stem. Modifications of stem. So here, based on the modifications of the stem has three parts or three types. One is called as underground stem. The other one is called as subaerial stem, and the other one is called as aerial stem modifications. So, we are starting with the first one called as underground stem modifications. Underground stem modifications. So, normally we know that stem is above the ground. Here, stem is below the ground. Still, we use a word stem. When the stem is below the ground, we are using a word stem because it has the presence of nodes and internodes. Because of the presence of nodes and internodes, when it is below the ground also, we use a word stem. Now, underground stem modifications, what are there? And we will see one after the other. The first one is called as rhizome. So this stem, the underground stem called rhizome, which is present below the ground and it is parallel. It is growing parallel to the soil surface. It grows parallel to the soil surface and has the presence of covered by the ginger is one of the example, and it is covered by the browny scaly leaf. The stem is covered by the browny scaly leaf and has the presence of nodes and internodes have been present. When we take this stem and cut into pieces, each piece is giving rise to new plant. Hence, this is called as vegetative propagation. So here, when we take the vegetative parts of the plant body, and that gives rise to new plants, they are called as vegetative propagation. So, even here the stem helps in vegetative propagation. So, this is one called as underground stem. Example for this is ginger. So, ginger is called as Gingiber officinalis. So, this is one, and the other one is called as turmeric. The other one is called as turmeric, called as Curcuma longa. So, these two are the examples of rhizome. So, we go for the second stem called as stem tuber. So, here tuber. So, this is underground stem. The stem is usually oval shaped. So, stem is underground oval shaped and has the presence of browny scaly leaf, covered by a browny scaly leaf, and has the presence of nodes and internodes. Has the presence of nodes and internodes. At the nodal region, there is a presence of axillary buds. At the nodal region, there is a presence of axillary buds. So, this axillary buds are called as eye. So, here the example for this is potato. Solanum tuberosum has the presence of nodal region called as axillary buds, and this axillary buds are called as eye. So, this eye helps in vegetative propagation. So, when we cut this eye, and so it gives rise to a new plant. So, example for the tuber is called as potato, called as Solanum tuberosum. So, we start with the next one called as corm. So, here Corm is again, it is an underground stem. So this underground stem, which is usually spherical shaped, large spherical shaped, covered by a browny scaly leaf, has the presence of axillary buds. There is a presence of nodal region, axillary buds are there, and thus is usually cut. It gives rise to new plant. Hence, they are also called as vegetative, helps in vegetative propagation. So, example for this is Amorphophilus. Amorphophilus is one of the example and commonly called as Jamkand. So, it is called as Amorphophilus jamkand. This is corm. So we go for the fourth one, and the fourth one is usually called as underground stem, called as bulb. So we know that here the stem is highly reduced, underground, highly reduced, and there is a presence of a disc-like structure. The stem is disc-like structure, and this is called as reduced stem. It can be noticed in the onion. So there is a disc-like structure. At the center, there is a presence of axillary bud. So when we cut the onion, we see at the center there is small yellow colored structures are there, that is called as axillary bud. So this is called a stem. Below this disc, there is a presence of roots. All these roots are called as adventitious roots. Below this, adventitious roots have been present, and this is covered by the leaves. And here in an onion, there are three types of leaves have been present. Three types of leaves have been present. One is called as a fresh edible leaf. So here the leaf can be eaten as it is, and it has been fresh. So this is called as fresh edible leaf. So outermost layer, there is a presence of dry scaly leaf. Dry scaly leaf is present. So when we take an onion, this is cut and peeled out and removed. And above this, there is a presence of a green, hollow, photosynthetic leaves have been present, and they are called as foliage leaf. Foliage leaf is present. Above this, there is a presence of inflorescence. A group of flowers have been present. So this is called as a white color. Flowers have been present, called as inflorescence. Like this, there is an underground stem modification called as bulb, called as example onion, called Allium cephas, and one more example is called as garlic, called as Allium sativa. So we go for the second one, called as subaerial stem modifications. Till now, just I was discussing with underground stem. Now we are stepping to subaerial stem modification. Here, the stem always grows horizontal to the soil surface. So towards the soil surface or on the soil surface, the plants have been growing. For this, we will start with the first one, called as runner. So here, the runner is nothing but they grow horizontal to the soil surface. So this is soil surface. On this soil surface, the stem is growing horizontal. It grows horizontal and has the presence of nodes at the nodal region. They produces roots. At the nodal region, they produces adventitious roots have been produced. So from here, there is a presence of leaves, and this leaves normally it is trifoliate leaves have been present. Three leaves have been present, hence they are called as trifoliate leaves have been present. So this here even we can see small yellow colored flowers are also been present. So like this, trifoliate leaves with a horizontal stem is present, called as runner. Example for this is oxalis. So it grows horizontal to the soil surface, hence it is called as oxalis. So again, even this also helps in vegetative propagation. When a stem is cut into pieces, each piece leads into a new plant development. So we go for the second one, and the second one is usually called as stolon. So here the stolon, the stem again which has a presence of erect stem. One of the lower nodal region, there is a presence of a branch, and this branch always comes down, touches the soil and again goes up. I'll repeat this. The stem is normal, there is a presence of erect stem, lower nodal region, one of the branch comes down, touches the soil and again goes up. So here it forms an elevation. So this elevation is called as stolon. Or normally when you take jasmine, mint examples. So in a jasmine plant, we take both the edges of the stem and it is dipped in the soil. So we bend the stem and it is been sown, so that from here the plant grows erect as well as here. So this elevation is called as stolon. So here both the sides the roots are being produced. So this is called as stolon. So we go for the third one, and the third one is called sucker. So sucker, the third one is called sucker. In the sucker, just we see that again the lower nodal region, it produces a branch, and this branch always grows horizontal. Here I said the lower nodal region leads to elevation, but here the lower nodal region leads to a branch, and this branch grows horizontal and again it climbs up. So like this, there is a presence of leaves. So here there is a presence of adventitious roots of being present. So when a plant is growing horizontal, this is called as sucker. The example for this is chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum is the example for sucker. So we are going for the fourth one called as offset. So this is one of the aquatic plants. So in the water, the stem always grows horizontal. The stem always grows horizontal to the water surface. And here there is a presence of a small bulb-like structure, and this is giving rise to a huge, large leaf is present. So like this, plants or this type of plants can be noticed in the stagnant water. It can be seen in the water. Here towards the lower side, there is a presence of roots. So here the stem is horizontal. The stem is horizontal to the water surface, and this has a small stem with a bulb and leaves, and here there is a presence of roots. The roots has the presence of root pockets. So these root pockets are filled with air, helps in buoyancy, helps in floating. So this is one of the example for Hycornia. This is one. And one more plant by name Pistia. So in a Pistia also, you can see that there is a presence of offset. A small stem is present horizontal to the water surface, and here there is a presence of roseate leaves. So the leaves are coiled like a rose petals. We have seen rose petals, like a rose petals, the leaves have been coiled and it is present, and here there is a presence of roots are there with a presence of root pockets, and this also helps in buoyancy. So this is about the subaerial stem modifications. So we go for the third one called as aerial stem modification. So we have completed underground stem modification, subaerial stem modification, now aerial stem. The meaning of aerial stem, the stem is above the ground. It is known to us always the stem is above the ground, but still here only some modifications of the stem is been explained. So one called as phylloclad. So here the stem is flat. The stem is flat, green in color. The stem is flat, green in color, and has the presence of branchings at the nodal region. Like this, at the nodal region there is a presence of branching. Stem is flat, green in color and helps in photosynthesis. Here the function of a leaf is taken by the stem here. The stem helps in photosynthesis. Here the leaves are modified into spines. So here this plant always grows in a desert areas, or it is called as xerophytic. So here when in a dry areas the plant grows, it should not suffer with the loss of water. So instead of that, here the leaf normally has a stomata. So here stomata throws out the water. So it leads to loss of water. So to avoid that, here the leaves are modified into spines. So once the leaves are modified into spines, throwing out of water loss will not be there. So this function of the leaf is given to the stem. Stem is green color, helps in photosynthesis. Here leaves which are spines which helps in protection. So example for this is opuntia, called as cactus. So we go for the second one. The second one is called as cladode. The second one is cladode. Here the stem is a delicate stem is been present and has the presence of branchings. At the nodal region of the stem there is a presence of leaves are been present, and these leaves are always orals of leaves are been present. There are also delicate leaves are present and has the presence of orals of leaves are been present. So again here they help in photosynthesis. There is a presence of photosynthesis. Example for this is asparagus. So usually the asparagus is one of the example for cladode. The other one called as ruscus. So this is also one of the example for cladode. Free. So we go for the next one called as stem tendrils. So in this we know that the stem has the presence of a wire-like structures have been present which is required for the climbing. So in majority of the climbers and creepers there is a presence of stem tendrils have been present. For example, at the nodal region of the stem there is a presence of a wire-like structures like this. So this wire-like structures called as tendrils. So these tendrils are usually present at the nodal region, or in some of the leaves. At the tip of a leaf there is a presence of wire-like structures are also been present. So this is called as stem tendrils. So this stem tendrils can be noticed in a grapevine. So in a grapevine it can be noticed. And one more example is Passiflora. Passiflorae or Passiflora, there is a presence of stem tendrils. Now we go for one more called as thorns. So we know that in the stem there are the presence of spines, thorns, hooks, all these have been present for the sake of protection. So here, so we see that at the nodal regions of the stem there is a presence of thorns have been present. So here it can be noticed in the rose. In the rose there is a presence of thorns, or in some of the citrus you can see, or in some of the bougainvillea. So bougainvillea is nothing but a paper flower, there is a presence of thorns. And we go for the last one under the aerial step modification called as clump. So this clump is nothing but there is a presence of hollow stem. Hollow stem is present. At the nodal regions also there is hollow stem. Nodal regions are also hollow, and this is called as clump. This can be noticed in a bamboo. So in a bamboo stem, hollow with nodal regions also there is a presence of hollow structures have been seen. So this is called as clump. So we are going for the next heading called as leaf. So we have completed root, stem, we are stepping into leaf. So we know that leaf is called as kitchens of the plant body. So in all the angiosperms. Majority of the angiosperms, leaves are green in color. So we know that leaves are green in color. Here the green cytoplasmic organelle is chloroplast. Chloroplast. In the chloroplast, there is a presence of a pigment called as chlorophyll. So in this chlorophyll, again, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotene and xanthophyll are called as pigments present in the chloroplast. So remember, I am giving you some more extra information. In a plant, plastids are of three types. One is called as chromoplast. The word chromoplast, it is called as colored plastids. It is called as chromoplast, is called as colored one. Usually they are present in the flowers and fruits. Colored pigments or colored structures called as chromoplast. The other one is called as chloroplast. The chloroplast is usually green in color. They are green in color, present in the leaves, helps in photosynthesis. And the third one is called as leucoplast. Leucoplast. Here in leucoplast, it is usually colorless. Usually colorless. So this can be noticed in the leaves. So all these three are called as plastids. So these plastids are present in all the plants. So here one of the green plastid is called as chloroplast. In this there is a presence of a pigment called as chlorophyll. Now we'll go for the other words. So leaf always present on the nodal regions of the stem. So normally we can notice on the topper side, at the tip or the axis of the stem, the younger leaves have been present. Towards the lower side of the stem, there is a presence of the bigger leaves, or we use a word, older leaves have been present. Like this, the leaves are being arranged. So leaves always helps in photosynthesis. Leaves always helps in photosynthesis. It is nothing but manufacturing of food, preparation of food. So we know that in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide and water, the green pigment called as chlorophyll, they help in photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is nothing but manufacturing of food can be noticed. Now in angiosperms, the smallest leaf is called as Wolffia. So this is called as the smallest leaf, and there is a presence of the largest leaf. So the largest leaf, it is usually present in a aquatic floating leaves, and this is called as Victoria. So the floating leaf, largest called as Victoria, and the smallest one is called as Wolffia. So this is nothing but the leaf. So we go for next one called as parts of a leaf. So we are going for a next heading called as parts of a leaf. So we know that the leaf has always three parts. So the first part of a leaf is always called as leaf base. The first part of a leaf is always called as leaf base. Leaf base is also called as hypopodium. So it is called as hypopodium is called as leaf base. So this to be remembered for the sake of NEET. So leaf base. So usually at the nodal region there is a presence of leaf bases have been present. So when you take a stem, here the leaf starts here. So here there is a presence of a leaf base. At the leaf base region, sometimes there is a present small outgrowths have been present, and these outgrowths are always called as stipules. So at the leaf base region there is a presence of small hair-like structures. They are called as stipules. So just remember, in a plant or near the leaf base, if stipules are present, we use a word stipulate. Just remember, this is important. If stipules are present, we use a word stipulate. If stipules are absent, we use a word called as ex-stipulate. Ex-stipulate. That should be remembered. Now, in some of the monocots, the stem is covered by a sheeting leaf base. So here the stem is covered by a leaf base and the leaves are being present. So the leaves are being present like this. So this is called as sheeting base. So in a monocot there is a presence of leaf sheeting base is being present. So this is one. In some of the leguminous plants called as pea plant, beans. So you see that the leaf base leads to swelling. So there is a presence of swelling like structures have been present at the leaf base. The swollen leaf base is called as pulvinate. So the word pulvinate is called as pulvinous or pulvinate. Pulvinous or pulvinate is nothing but leaf base is swollen. So this is about leaf base. So we go for the next one called as petiole. Second part of a leaf is called as petiole, called as stalk of a leaf. So it is also called as mesopodium. So we know that the stalk, the petiole always holds the leaf lamina. So the leaf base is continued. The leaf base is continued as a stalk called as petiole. This petiole holds the leaf blade. So leaf blade is also called as leaf lamina. So it holds the leaf blades. Now in some of the, for example, when we go for high cornea. So in a high cornea called as terror of Bengal. In this there is a presence of a large swollen spongy structures. Large swollen spongy structure petiole is being present. So this is called as high cornea, called as terror of Bengal. Whereas when we go for one more example called as acacia. Acacia, here leaves are short and there is a short life or short-lived, immediately it falls off. So this is about one. Now, if a petiole is present in a leaf, so if a stalk called as petiole present in a leaf, it is called as petiolate. I'll repeat this. If a petiole stalk is present in a leaf, we use a word petiolate. If the petiole is absent, we use a word sessile. The word sessile, the petiole is absent. So here present petiolate, when it is absent, it is called as sessile. Now, so this usually can be seen in majority of the dicot leaves petioles have been present. So we go for the third one called as leaf lamina. Leaf lamina is also called as leaf blade. Leaf blade, or it is called as epipodium. So we know that always this leaf lamina is green in color, always helps in photosynthesis. At the center of a leaf lamina, there is a presence of midrib. Midrib is followed by veins. Veins are followed by veinlets. So all this midrib, veins and veinlets helps in transportation. So it helps in transportation of water and minerals to the leaf. So we go for the parts of a leaf. So as I mentioned, at the nodal region of a stem, leaf takes its origin. So the first part of a leaf is always called as leaf base. So the leaf base on either side has the presence of a small outgrowths, hair-like structures called as stipules. So when a stipule is present, we use a word stipulate. Next, once it is been followed by a stalk-like structure, the leaf base is continued, has a stalk-like structure, and this stalk-like structure is called as petiole. So the petiole is giving rise to leaf lamina. So or the petiole holds the leaf lamina. So here the petiole continues as a midrib. This is called as a midrib. On either side of the midrib there is a presence of veins. So all these are called as veins. The veins are followed by veinlets. So midrib, veins and veinlets are being present in a leaf lamina. So very important, midrib, veins and veinlets has the presence of xylem and phloem. They have the presence of vascular bundles which helps in conduction of water and minerals. So we know that the water is supplied to the leaf in the presence of midrib, veins and veinlets, and leaf prepares the food, and that is food. Reserve food is taken out from the again xylem supplies water and phloem takes away the food, reserve food to all parts of the body. So this acts as a transportation. So the margin of a leaf, so outermost layer of a leaf is called as leaf margin. So this varies from leaf to leaf. Once it is continuous like this, we use a word entire margin. Or when we go for the leaf margins has a presence of very small structures. They are called as teeth-like structures called as serrate. Serrate margins are also being present like this. They have a various leaf margins. And the tip of the leaf is always called as leaf apex or leaf tip. So all these are nothing but the parts of a simple leaf. So we go for the next heading called as venation. So the word venation is nothing but the arrangement of veins and veinlets in a leaf lamina. So arrangement of veins and veinlets in a leaf lamina is called as venation. Arrangement of veins and veinlets in leaf lamina is called as venation. There is one more word which may lead into confusion called as vernation. So the word vernation is nothing but, so it leads to confusion, just be careful. Vernation is nothing but arrangement of leaves in a bud condition. So when there is a presence of bud condition, arrangement of leaves is called as vernation. But here venation is nothing but arrangement of veins and veinlets in a leaf lamina. Now we are going for two types of venations. So the first one is called as reticulate. The first one is called reticulate venation. So the word reticulate venation, here the arrangement of veins and veinlets will be in the form of a network. They are in the form of a net or network. So just we can see there is a presence of veins and veinlets. Again this also has some more branchings like this. So arrangement of veins and veinlets will be in the form of a net. So it is usually called as reticulate venation. So once there is a presence of veins, veinlets appears like a net, it is called as reticulate. Reticulate venation is always noticed in a dicot leaf. This is important for NEET. So reticulate venation has the presence of dicot leaf is an example for reticulate. So we are going for the next one called as parallel venation. So reticulate venation is nothing but it is in the form of a network, has been noticed in a dicot. So dicot leaves like mango, neem, in all this there is a presence of dicot reticulate venations. Now we go for parallel venation. So the arrangement of veins and veinlets in a leaf lamina will be parallel. So parallel, hence they are called as parallel venation. So when we go for example called as banana leaf. So we know that in a banana leaf there is a presence of the midrib, on either sides there is a presence of veins, the veins which are parallel to each other. Hence they are called as parallel venation. In a parallel venations there are two types. One is called as parallel convergent. So the word parallel convergent. So here at one particular point, the veins starts and ends at one particular point. So like this, they are parallel to each other. So they start from one point and ends at another point. The veins are converging. They are meeting at one particular point. Hence they are called as convergent. So this can be noticed in plant called as acacia. Whereas when we go for a second one called as parallel divergent. The word parallel divergent, here from one particular point the vein starts and they diverge. They never meet at one point. So here the veins will continue like this. So they move and reach the tip, but they are not meeting at one particular point. So they are called as diverging from one particular point is called as a divergent. Example for this is date palm. So we are going for the next heading called as modifications of leaf. So we know that all the leaves helps in photosynthesis. So other than photosynthesis, so what are the modifications in the leaf? We are going to see here. The first one is called as spines. Leaves are modified into spines. So as I mentioned here, in a phylloclad, the stem is flat green in color. So here there is a presence of flattened stem is present. Here the leaves are modified into spines. The stem helps in photosynthesis, but here the leaves are modified into spines, and this spines helps in protection. And as we know that this plant grows in a desert areas, dry areas, so water will be very less in that areas to avoid transpiration. So here the leaves will have stomata. With the stomata, water will be thrown out as a transpiration. So to avoid that, here the leaves are modified into spines. Hence automatically here this spines helps in protection. So for examples for this is Opuntia cactus. So this is a spine modifications. So we go for the second one called as tendril modifications. So here in a tendrils, as in the climbers, some of the creepers, here the leaves are modified. So the axillary leaf or the leaf tip is modified into a wire-like structures, and this wire-like structures are called as tendrils. So some of this, the leaf itself is modified into tendrils, or leaf apex is modified into tendrils. This can be noticed in the pea plants, and some of the Passiflora also we see there is a presence of tendril modifications. Now we go for the third one called as leaf helps in storage modifications. So we know that leaves also helps in storage. For example, when we take onion. So in an onion, there are three types of leaf as I mentioned. There is a presence of underground stem called as disc, axillary buds have been present. Above this, there is a presence of fleshy leaves. So this fresh, edible leaf is present, and this leaf can be eaten as it is. So hence it is usually called as edible part, and it stores the food. And one more called as garlic. Even in the garlic we eat in a garlic there is a presence of reserve food, so we eat garlic. So this is nothing but some of the modifications. So we go for next one. So we go for the next one called insectivorous plants, leaf modifications. In this, the next one is called as insectivorous or carnivorous. So we know that very commonly insects sits on a leaf and it is being eaten off. So we are destroying the crops in the presence of leaves. But here some of the leaves are modified for capturing the insects. So here leaf is modified for capturing the insect, hence they are called as insectivorous plants, or they are called as carnivorous plants. So here these leaves are modified for capturing the insects because of nitrogen deficiency. So usually, normally the plants require nitrogen. When the nitrogen deficiency is there in a plant, so the leaves are modified for capturing the insects. From the insect, they trap nitrogen or they take nitrogen. So some of these insectivorous plants are, so one of this is called as a Drosera. So Drosera is nothing but sundew. So normally in a Drosera there is a presence of the orals of leaves have been present and they are like a spoon. Here there is a presence of tentacles for trapping. At the center there is a presence of inflorescence. So like this, called as Drosera, they are called as sundew. The next one is called as Nepenthes. So Nepenthes is nothing but a pitcher plant. So here in a pitcher plant, what are modified to what? Just we are going to see here at the leaf base or at the nodal region, leaf base is there. So here the leaf base looks like a leaf. It is modified and it is looking like a leaf, but it is leaf base. Whereas the second one is called as a petiole. The petiole is coiled and it is like a tube. Whereas the third one is called as leaf lamina. Leaf lamina is modified like a vessel. It is called as pitcher. So the leaf apex is modified like a lid. So here at the opening of this pitcher, there is a presence of sensory haze. When a fly, when an insect comes and touches the sensory haze, immediately the lid is closed. So once the fly comes and touches the sensory haze, or when they directly enter into pitcher and touch the inner wall of the pitcher, immediately sensation takes place and the lid is closed. Once the lid is closed, here the leaf produces lytic enzymes. So this lytic enzymes helps in digesting of the insect. So the lytic enzymes kills the insects and it is being digested. From the insect they trap the nitrogen. Hence they are called as insectivorous plants or they are called as carnivorous plants. Flesh eating plants called as carnivorous, insect trapping plants. Now we go for the other one is called as Sarconia. This is also called as a pitcher plant. And the other one is called as Utricularia. So this is one of the aquatic plant. Utricularia is an aquatic plant. There is a presence of bladderwort. It is commonly called as bladderwort. This also helps in capturing the insects. The next one is called as Dionaea. This is called as Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap. And we are going to discuss types of leaves, simple leaf, compound leaf, and phyllotaxy in the next class. Thank you.